doctrinal time is dealing with what subject? Anthropology, which is the study of man, dealing with how man was created, dealing with how man acts, the makeup of man, the person of man. And we went through four descriptions here, four sub-doctrines underneath this giant doctrine of anthropology. We talked about why did God make man? Man was created to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. Then we spoke about what sets man apart from everything else created, from the angels, from the beasts of the field, from the fowl of the air, from the fish in the sea. Man was created in the image of God. Nothing else can claim that title, that classification. We are God's image bearers. Then we talked about in what state what man was created in, and that is innocence. Man was created in a state of innocence where he had no concept of evil, no concept of sin, no concept of wrong or shame. And when they took the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, that is when they condemned themselves by disobeying God, bringing that knowledge upon them, and then being cursed with a sin nature. And then we have what is the makeup of man, and we talked about him being a trichotomy. There are three parts of man: a body, a soul, and a spirit. This is how you engage with the universe around you. The body is your world conscience. The soul is your self-conscience. And the spirit is your God conscience. And there are two. There is the view that man is a dichotomy, a body and a soul. And the soul and spirit are like the two sides of the same coin. But we hold that the man is created as a trichotomy. And there are two verses that we use for that. The one in Thessalonians that talks about your spirit, your soul, and your body. And then also Hebrews, where it's dividing asunder the body, the soul, and the spirit, the bones and marrow, that kind of thing. And so now we're going to speak about what happened at the fall of man. Genesis chapter number 3. This is where man transitions from being good and glorious to corrupt and repulsive, really, in the eyes of God, and cursed. Always, whenever speaking with somebody, when they're like, why does God let bad things happen, and why is this and that? It's not God's fault. It is a curse. God did put it upon us. God did ordain it, but it is a curse. It is something we brought upon ourselves. Genesis 3, verse 8, and they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? The man said, The woman whom thou gavest with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the woman, What is it that thou hast done? And the woman said, It is the serpent which beguiled me, and I did eat. The Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. So the snakes for the rest of this cursed world, I don't know if they had wings, I don't know if they had legs, but now they have neither of those things, and they go upon their belly. Verse 15, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and I will put between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise thy heel. Of course, that is the promise of Christ. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow in thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And so you have the gender roles here assigned. You had in creation the helpmeet, but now you have authority established here from the curse. You also have the pain of childbearing, where it's a joyful time, but it's mingled with sorrow and pain and suffering. And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of, cursed is the ground for thy sake. And sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. And so the ground is cursed. The body of man is cursed. The relationship between man and woman is cursed. And verse 19, In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, and thou return unto the ground, for out of it thou wast taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. Death is part of the curse. Pain when you work is part of the curse. In the perfect garden, work was a joyous thing. Now it is a toiling, sweatful, agonizing thing most of the time. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins and clothe them. And here we see the first mention of blood sacrifice. God, they tried to sew fig leaves together. They tried to put together vines and branches, and God said that was not sufficient. Blood had to be spilled to cover their shame. And so here's the first instance of life being taken for another. And that's these animals who were skinned by God to clothe Adam and Eve. And then you can find that premise. You can give somebody the full plan of salvation, the gospel, right here in Genesis. Because you have in Genesis, there's sin, there's guilt, and then there's man trying to cover it with you can liken it to religion, you can liken it to their own morality, fig leaves. Trying to hide, trying to cover, trying to make up for their own inadequacy. They see the shame, they see their nakedness, and they're trying to cover their sin. They try to hide from their sin, but it's impossible. Blood had to have been spilt. Blood had to have been taken. Life had to end for man and woman to be covered and coated and no longer have their shame open and bare. And then the final part of the curse, we see verse 23. Let's back up to verse 22. The Lord God said, Behold, man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand and take also the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the garden to till the ground from whence he was taken. For the plan of redemption, they had to be removed from the tree of life. He did not want them to mankind to dwell in the eternal state of sin. He wanted to redeem them. And so for their own good, he drove them out of the garden. And he placed at the east gate of the garden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. And so why is everything so bad in this world? You can come back to Genesis. If anyone ever asks you that, you can come back to Genesis and say it's the curse that we brought upon ourselves. And if God did not curse our land, did not curse our bodies, did not curse us, would he really be just? He would not. And so that is why pain and suffering and sorrow exist, because we asked for it. We requested it personally.